What's up guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be moving forward on the air suspension install. I got the car jacked up behind me right here, and today we're going to be putting on the D2 air struts. So with the wheels all off, we could go ahead and get started on uninstalling the coilovers that I have on my car currently. For those of you that are wondering, I'm currently running Tein street basis coilovers. Before I start loosening everything up, just wanted to give you guys a quick peek at the new D2 air struts. I'm super pumped on these. Back in the trunk again, I'm gonna be removing these two 14mm nuts. Got those threads mostly loosened up. And now I'm gonna move down to the underside and remove this bolt right here. I just took that bolt out, and now we got a little wiggle room, so we'll take off these two top bolts. We should be able to pull this down and pull the coilover out. Oh, come on, man. There we go. So we jumped ahead just slightly and put the new air strut in on this side. We're just trying to figure out where to best put the air line and where to drill a hole through the car that's going to be the least invasive. So I'll show you what it looks like right now. So nothing's screwed in, I just got it kind of jacked up to hold it in place, but the air strut is in. You can see on the right hand side here is the fitting to attach the air line, and then we put this just short piece in just to kind of mock it up to see where we're gonna put it. So I think it's gonna fit behind the strut like that and then go straight up through this section of the car right here. So we're just trying to figure out the best spot to drill a hole. Ended up using this carbide bit right here. These things are pretty aggressive. It's the same thing I use to drill the holes through the chassis for my roll bar, so they're pretty tough. So under the car here, here's the air strut, and then you'll see this hole right here is where I drilled. So the line will be able to run straight up through there into the trunk of the car. And there's a view from the top. So I just did the same thing that I did on the rear passenger side, on the rear driver side. So the new D2 air strut is in position. And now I'm gonna go ahead and figure out how to drill a hole on this side as well. And there is hole number 2. So with the rears done and out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and move to the front of the car. It's basically gonna be the same process with the exception of the end links on the sway bar. So I learned from doing coilovers a long time ago that I should detach those first, because last time I did it in a weird order and there was a bunch of tension on the sway bar and it made it a nightmare. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start by loosening the sway bar end links and then repeating the same process that I did in the back. Well, I thought I could get out the easy way and just take out minimal bolts, put a little weight on it, and be able to remove it, since these shocks are a lot shorter than the stock shocks. But as you saw in that last clip, that didn't work. So I'm kind of burnt out today. I think I've reached a stopping point, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop now and then just pick up on this in the morning. It's a new day and we're back at it. Let's go ahead and get these fronts off. All right, so as you can see, we got that coilover out, and I was able to do it without taking this whole upper A-arm bolt out. And I'll show you how I did it using this crazy method that we found on the internet. So if you can see right here, we got this end link bolt out of position, and we did that on both sides. If you try to do it one at a time, there'll be way too much tension, so take those both out. We obviously took these bolts off the top and then the shock bolt off of the very bottom of the coilover right there. Then we wrap this strap around that lower control arm right there. Put this 2x4 and used it as a fulcrum to basically push down on it and that allows you to put more weight than you would normally be able to on this. I'm not a very heavy guy, so I need all the help I can get. Keep in mind that these are aftermarket coilovers, so they're a little bit shorter than the stock ones. If they were stock struts, this probably would not work, and you'd still have to take that big bolt out and everything. But thankfully, it works for us. There we go. There we go. Got it. So with the front struts out now, we're gonna hop back to the back ones again and actually get the lines properly routed and everything bolted in, and then kind of go from there. We now officially have the airlines run for the rear bags, and everything's torqued down as well. So I'll show you how it's laid out right now. So we got the fitting on this side, and it's routing behind the bag and then up through this hole that we drilled. Got a grommet in there as well, and we wrapped the line in conduit to keep it nice and protected. This is actually going to be tucked up a little more like that when we got it fully installed. But this is the other side, so the line's coming through here. This is going to be covered in conduit too, and then this is going to attach to a T that goes to the front, and then the other part of the T will come to this line right here, which we already have done. Goes through the grommet here, and then same setup as the passenger side on the driver's side here. Right now we're figuring out actually how to run the airlines for the fronts before I actually put the fronts in. So originally we were gonna go through the firewall on the passenger side, but there's not really a good area to do that. So I think we've decided at this point, if you see that rubber boot down there, that's where the main wiring harness goes through into the car. So we're probably just gonna punch a hole in that rubber and then run it alongside there. So the line will be coming out here. This is obviously where the strut will be, but there's this existing hole right there that we put that grommet on. But as you can see, we actually took the snorkel out. So in order to utilize that hole to run the airline, which will be right here on the underside of the car, we're actually gonna have to drill a hole into the plastic snorkel. So here's with the snorkel in place. We put some painter's tape on the underside of this. That way under here, we could use a Sharpie to make a mark in that blue painter's tape, and then pull the snorkel out and drill a hole through it. So I just marked it with the Sharpie, and then on the blue tape here, we got our dot in order to drill. So with the hole drill, I took one of these grommets from this little universal grommet kit we ordered, and was able to pop it in right there. So that makes a nice clean hole for the line to pass through. And then we drilled another hole out this back corner right here. So when you put this in the car, this actually comes out in a perfect spot. I'll mock it up so you can see. So this is just using a little tester piece of line, but you can see the line in the conduit goes through the back side of this snorkel, through this grommet here, goes down, and then makes its way out on this hole right here. And then we will route this line. We'll go back behind here, and then down through this boot at the bottom and into the car. I slid the air struts in on the front struts here, and I'm running into another issue. So looking up from the underside of the car, this air strut passes through this upper A-arm, whatever you want to call it. I'm running into an issue with clearance right here on the back side. If you can see that, it's kind of hard to see. It's almost touching, and that's with it extended. If I bring these tightening rings down, it won't work. It just touches it. So I'm wondering if I got the wrong part number or something, or if I'm just doing something wrong. This is the biggest hassle of all time. Good morning, guys. It's a new day, and I'm back working on the front struts again. After my last update of the clearance issues that were happening, I went online and did some research and figured out what the problem was. And it turns out that on NB2s, basically anything above a 99 and 2000, the upper control arms are a little bit different. They have a reinforcement plate that actually intrudes on that gap where the strut passes through ever so slightly, but it's enough to cause issues on a lot of different coilovers and bags. So you have a couple options. You could basically buy the 99 to 2000 upper control arms, or you can use a grinder to take away that excess material on the NB2 control arms. So rather than buying new ones, I decided to go ahead and try to grind away on it. I already did the passenger side mostly. I'll show you the difference between the passenger already ground down side and the driver side that's not been touched yet. This is the unmodified side. You can see how much that plate sticks in. And here's the passenger side. Here's a better view from the bottom, so you can kind of see right here exactly how much material I needed to take off. There you go. You can see that back side. We have some space to move now, so that's good. Making some progress on the driver's side here. Got a little bit more material to take off towards the front of the car. I'm gonna link the article that I read about doing this in the description below. I know it looks kind of sketchy, but if you look at that article, you see what I'm doing here. After a couple hours of grinding, I managed to get both sides done now. So all I have to do is throw some paint on there to make sure that it doesn't rust in the future, and we should be good. For the paint, I'm gonna be using this Rust-Oleum Gloss Black, and then I got one of these just little foam paint brushes. So let's throw some paint on there. While I got the paint out, I'm actually gonna paint the edge of this trunk board that I made. Because when the carpet sits on top of here, you're still gonna be able to see a little bit of the side of the wood. So I'm just gonna paint that black so it's a little more discreet. So I ended up just doing all the edges rather than just the bottom. Even though you probably won't see them, but just to be a little uniform, and I'd be super pissed if I put this thing in and saw some wood on the top side. So I just went ahead and did all of it. So after all that buildup of putting in the struts, I'm still gonna have to end this video early without putting the front struts in, because as you guys saw, I painted them, so it's gonna take about 24 hours for them to fully dry before I could put the struts in, so I didn't wanna mess with it while they were still wet. So at this point, there's only a few more things that we need to do to get this car back on the ground and functioning how it's supposed to. Obviously we got to put the front struts in, but as I mentioned, that should be no problem anymore. We should have no clearance issues, so we get those in, tighten down everything, and then from there we got to figure out the length of the air lines to run from both front wheels, connect those together, go into the cabin and to the back of the pressure gauge and switches. I also have to mount the gauge panel that I made into the glove box itself. That shouldn't be too difficult, just a few screws, or 2 screws on either side to mount that in place. And then moving back to the trunk, a lot of it is pretty much done. There's just a couple wires that we have to add connectors to, but besides that, it's pretty much ready to roll. After those few things are done, we basically just have to, pretty everything up, make sure everything's tucked away nice and tidy, but we've taken a lot of precautions along this whole process to make that part easy. We've kind of thought it all the way through of how we're gonna run everything and make it look pretty when it's all said and done. There's one other thing that I'm gonna be doing while my car is all apart. I figured while I have it up like this and everything taken apart, I might as well take advantage. So I have one more thing that I'm gonna keep a secret for now. You'll have to wait and see what it is, but it is something that uses electricity, so I'll give you that little hint. Anyway, I think that is gonna do it for today's video. Thanks for sticking with it if you did. I know this one's probably gonna be pretty long because I shot it over the course of like 3 days. So as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the flippity flap. Peace.